สวัสดีค่ะ very good evening and welcome to Thai PBS World Tonight.
Good evening as well, and we hope you have had a relaxing weekend and welcome back to work and that you have a productive Monday. And kicking off the program with the latest COVID situation. So as you can see for the past week, the COVID infections have actually steadily increased. Now to more than 18,000 cases a day. And because of this upward trend, the authorities have decided to raise the COVID-19 alert to level 4 for all across the country, which is nationwide. So this level 4 is actually just the second highest level. And so basically we have level 1 to 5, and this is 4 for all of the provinces of Thailand. And Deputy Public Health Permanent Secretary Dr. Thongchai said today that it was anticipated that the infection rate will remain high for the next 1 to 2 weeks, as he urged members of the public to avoid crowded places, refrain from social gatherings, to work from home, and to put off travels from one province to another. It was also reported that cases of BA.2 subvariant of Omicron variant have doubled in Thailand, and a total of more than 110,000 infections were reported in the past 7 days from February 13 to 19. Public Health Minister Anutin Chandragul, meanwhile, has signed a ministerial announcement effective from March 1st, under which all Thais will still have access to medical care for COVID-19 infections, but the services provided will be in accordance with their respective entitlements. There are currently various medical schemes for Thai people, such as the Social Security Scheme for working people who have made contributions to the scheme from their salaries, the Universal Health Scheme, previously known as the Gold Card for the general public who are not covered by the Social Security Scheme, and the medical scheme for state officials. The Public Health Minister explained that the ministry's basic guideline for the treatment of COVID-19 patients is that the treatments are commensurate with the level of sickness, which means asymptomatic and mild cases must be treated in home isolation as the first choice or in community isolation facilities. For these patients in the capital, the BMA or the Bangkok City Hall and the National Health Security Office will be responsible for taking care of them, and both have been instructed to increase their hotline services for arranging for patients to enter home or community isolation. And only severe cases will be admitted to general or field hospitals to ease their workload in anticipation of an increase in cases as the Omicron variant is spreading steadily. Anutin also said the universal coverage for emergency patients, or UCEP, remains in place for those who have other underlying diseases, adding that these patients are entitled to free medical services, including hospitals, if their conditions are serious. Something that we have to, of course, be mindful about because after, especially during the new year and then moving on to Chinese New Year, people have actually been quite lax, about the COVID situation, that it is living among us. We're living with the disease, and that the precautions haven't really been taken as much. People have let some guards down, basically, and this is a reminder that we're still in quite a serious situation.
Exactly, and still on the COVID-19 situation, as the daily new infections are on the rise, but some not so good news is that the numbers are likely to be much higher in the near future. This has been confirmed by the Thai virologist Dr. Yong, who said on Sunday that COVID-19 Omicron variant infections are on the steady rise across Thailand and average about 25,000 cases a day. And even worse, the number may surge up to 100,000 cases a day in the near future. Judging by the rapid transmissibility of the BA.2 subvariant of the Omicron variant, Dr. Yong said that Thailand may soon fall into the same pattern like in other countries such as Singapore. Dr. Yong, who's the head of the Center of Excellence in Clinical Virology at the Faculty of Medicine of Chulalongkorn University, pointed out that the current rate of infection is 10 times that of the 4 previous waves in Thailand. However, he noted that it must be accepted that infections must reach their peak before they start to stabilize and then fall a bit later, as they did in Europe and in America. And with the likelihood that daily COVID-19 infections will continue to rise, Dr. Yong said that the most logical thing for everyone to do right now is to reduce their risk of infection, which is pretty much common sense, with the washing hands, the social distancing, and all these things to prevent ourselves from getting infected with COVID-19. And most importantly, those who test positive should isolate themselves at home or in community facilities and get their infection confirmed by RT-PCR test. So the bottom line here, this is not the end of COVID-19, and it looks like we're going to live with it for at least a few more months, with a very likely thing where the COVID-19 infections will reach to their peak before it starts to stabilize and then decrease like other previous waves that we've seen in Thailand.
Right, and moving on from COVID, because we still have to live with it for quite some time, even more. Now on to another big story of actually this past few days after the 2-day parliamentary debate that was held last week, and there was this massive exposure and revelation in regards to human trafficking that was exposed by a Move Forward MP, and this is in relation also to a former senior police officer who was at that time, some years ago, in charge of human trafficking investigation. So Police Major General Boween Pongsirin, who's the former Deputy Commissioner of the 8th Provincial Police Bureau, who led an investigation into a Rohingya human trafficking network about 6 years ago, said he feels relieved after his side of the story was revealed in Parliament by Move Forward MP Rangsiman Rome during the recent general debate. Currently living in exile in Australia after escaping with his for his life more than 6 years ago, Police Major General Boween led an investigation into the trafficking activities in Thailand's southern border provinces. His work led to the arrest and prosecution of up to 75 suspects. So that's actually really massive, Kunat, including 3 Army officers and 1 naval officer. A few others, including an Army Lieutenant General, who was then a special advisor to the Royal Thai Army, later surrendered and were eventually indicted. The probe was launched after security forces stumbled on a jungle camp in Songkhla back in August 2015, where hundreds of illegal Rohingya immigrants, victims of human trafficking gang, were being detained, and the remains of dozens, up to 30 Rohingya were also found buried around the camp. So it was actually really big news of that time. And in an online interview with Rangsiman and Panika Wanit, who's now a key member of Progressive Movement, the former police officer also said he was actually really happy to finally get to tell his side of the story, that he actually quit the police service after his plea to the national police chief at that time to review his transfer order to the 3 southernmost border provinces was rejected. He claimed that the transfer to the Deep South was actually to put his life at risk because he had many enemies after that investigation into trafficking. So he said he had been persecuted and treated unfairly by the police of Thailand and the government as well, as he insisted this story is true. And Bowen also said he feels he has only received half of the acknowledgement that he deserves, adding that if he has been allowed to complete his investigation, actually several more big fish would have been caught and brought to justice.
Exactly. And meanwhile, Chulalongkorn University's Office of the Student Affairs has announced that it will propose that an honorary doctorate in public administration from the university be conferred upon exiled policeman for his outstanding role in exposing the human trafficking network in southern Thailand over 6 years ago. So the Student Affairs Office stated that Bowen should be honored as a true policeman for his duty, who was persecuted by those in power until he had to seek asylum abroad. So this story has been a big story over the past weekend, and it looks like the truth has prevailed for Bowen on the story.
Right. It's actually, for MPs to actually talk to sources, for this kind of exposure and revelation, it kind of reminds us that any one of us can also be reporters.
Right.
And do some more investigation ourselves as well. Of course, do not put yourself in danger of any kind, but it is something of a big revelation that there's still more work to be done as well when it comes to such big of a crime.
And human trafficking has always been a big issue for Thailand because we have to admit that it still exists and many of the cases are still being underreported as well. So hopefully after this story, the other cases may be revealed later on as well. And now let's move on to another big story, which was the recent oil spill. And they are in the process of trying to fix the oil pipelines. And so far, it has been revealed that the repair of the pipelines may take up to more than 10 days. So the delicate work of plugging the ruptured submarine oil pipeline is set to begin soon, but only after all the crude oil still in the pipe are removed. And currently, it's about 12,000 liters of crude oil still in the pipe at the moment. And the operations will start tomorrow and is expected to take about 2 days, according to the Star Petroleum Refining Company, the company that is responsible for the oil leaks in the Gulf of Thailand earlier this year. Once the oil is completely removed, the repairs can begin, and this will take a further 10 days. So the Pollution Control Department Director General Attapon Charoen-Chansa told Thai PBS today that the SPRC must make sure that everything proceeds according to the plan, especially the prevention of any leakage of oil during the repair process. He said that he had proposed at an urgent meeting held yesterday that a team must be deployed to record the repair work in full, as he cited the importance of the pipeline, which is a key piece of evidence and must be protected. However, Attapon also said that he is optimistic that the SPRC will make sure that there are no further spills, adding that the whole operation will be under the close supervision of experts and done in close coordination with the PCD and other relevant agencies. And according to the repair plan, sealant will be injected into the 2 cracks in the pipe to be followed by the removal of the oil. Then a special adhesive material will be wrapped around the defects, and tests will be conducted to make sure that they are completely sealed. Attapon said that the process of removing the residual oil from the pipeline will be closely monitored by divers, and if there is an oil leak, work will immediately be suspended. And while the repair work is to take place mostly under the sea, 10 vessels are being deployed near the offshore mooring platform, equipped with booms and oil dispersant to contain any oil leaked. And in case there are waves higher than 1.5 meters, dispersant will also be applied. And a vessel is also deployed to collect oil floating on and below the sea surface. So it looks like it's going to be a big operation right here to contain the oil and to get the pipelines fixed.
Definitely. Well, Of course, we are all looking forward to, the solution of this oil crisis, because it does have a wide-ranging impacts, not just the environment, and the environment leads to, impacts in tourism as well as businesses and economy. And let's end the program with some good news, actually, with the resumption of direct flights between Thailand and Saudi Arabia, which will kick off on February 28th at the end of this month. So government spokesman Thanakorn Wangbunkongchana said this morning that Saudi Arabian Airlines will resume direct flights to Thailand next Monday as part of the move to restore full diplomatic ties, which were frozen for 3 decades. It was not specified just yet when it will be the start of scheduled flights, or if so, how many flights per week this airline will operate between the two countries. He did say that the Thai government expects that up to 200,000 Saudis may visit Thailand this year, which is expected to help the country earn up to 20 billion baht in tourism revenue this year. The flight on February 28th, of course, is the first such direct flight in 3 decades. It is about 3 months ahead of the original schedule. This is attributed to the Prime Minister's official visit on January 25th, which resulted in the renewal of diplomatic ties. He also said the Ministry of Foreign Affairs will lead a high-level business delegation to Saudi Arabia for business and trade discussions with their Saudi counterparts on February 26 and 27. And that the Thai Ministry of Tourism and Sports is working on a draft MOU to promote bilateral visits by the peoples of the two countries with the hope of promoting wellness trips to Thailand by Saudis and a sustainable tourism business. That's indeed actually really good news, Kanat.
Yep.
As we reported before that diplomatic ties were actually frozen for something to 3 decades over the crime committed by a Thai national in terms of jewelry theft, and that was actually quite such a big, international incident. It is
Right.
such a faux pas in diplomatic world, basically, because it's not just that the jewelry, a big amount of jewelries were stolen from a Saudi palace from royalty, but there were some unfortunate, really sad incidents going on as well, where Saudi diplomats were found
Right.
killed afterwards when they were pursuing this. It is actually, of course, really good news when things start to seem to be resolved and we can finally travel.
Right, it's definitely a good sign, because if we go back, the case has made the diplomatic ties got really worse between Thailand and Saudi Arabia. But since the Prime Minister's visit, it looks like it is improving, and with the Saudi Airlines resuming the direct flights to Thailand, it's going to help improve the diplomatic ties even further.
Right. And with that, we wrap up this edition of Thai PBS World Tonight. Do catch us like this every weekday at 7 p.m. right here on YouTube and Facebook Live.
And don't forget to follow us on social media, including our website, thaipbsworld.com, for all the latest updates as well as analyses. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow. สวัสดีค่ะ
สวัสดีค่ะ